Look, let's just address the elephant in the room right off the bat. Most students lose easy, completely avoidable marks on standard costing. Specifically when we get into the weeds of fixed overhead expenditure, volume, capacity, and efficiency variances, it is an absolute bloodbath in the exam hall. I've seen it time and time again. But after this masterclass explainer, you absolutely won't be one of them. Welcome. I'm going to show you exactly what examiners are looking for straight out of our secret playbook. We're going to completely deconstruct these numbers and look at the massive, strategic big picture behind them. Okay, let's dive into this because the stakes are incredibly high today. We're looking at high tariff questions, those 9 to 15 mark absolute beasts that literally make or break your final grade. Imagine we're in a digital study suite right now, and I'm coaching two very different scholars. Let's call them Alex and Sam. Alex is highly technical, incredibly gifted at memorizing formulas, but completely freezes up on open-ended evaluation. Sam, on the other hand, is a brilliant creative thinker, making fantastic arguments, but absolutely struggles with structural precision and managing the clock. Throughout this session, we're going to tackle the exact roadblocks both of them face, which I guarantee are the same roadblocks you're facing right now. Now, what's really fascinating about this slide is this direct, unfiltered quote from the Principal Examiner report. It says, "Candidates referencing cross-topic connections achieve significantly higher marks." Now, Alex is looking at this and saying, hold on, coach. If the formula for the fixed overhead volume variance is just budgeted fixed overheads minus standard fixed overheads for actual production, shouldn't just getting the right number equal full marks? And that right there, that is the ultimate trap. Finding the right number only secures your absolute baseline marks. To unlock those top-tier A-star marks, you must connect these specific variance concepts to the broader Cambridge accounting syllabus. We are talking about the very anatomy of command words. Look closely at the terms on the board. You must deeply contrast the command word analyze versus evaluate, and explain versus to what extent. This is non-negotiable. Analyze means you take the engine apart, you systematically deconstruct the data. But evaluate demands a definitive judgment on the real-world implications of that data. You have to tell me if the engine actually runs. And if the prompt throws to what extent at you, oh, that comes with hidden constraints. It means you must vigorously argue both sides of the coin before you even think about dropping your final conclusion. So, the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that we need a structured, systematic path to master this multi-stage analysis and secure every single vital method mark available. Here is our masterclass roadmap. First, we'll tackle core principles. Second, the procedural framework. Third, the top 3 exam traps. And finally, we will master the evaluation. Let's move straight into Section 1.
Section 1. Core Concepts and Principles.
We have to pause and ask ourselves this really critical question. Why do students find multi-stage analysis and method marks so universally hard? Is it the layered math, where messing up the overarching volume calculation just brutally cascades and ruins everything below it? Or is it the conceptual nightmare of trying to explain why a capacity variance is somehow adverse while the efficiency variance is simultaneously favorable? This is exactly where Alex and Sam always start debating. Alex pushes for a purely factual approach, arguing that if the math is perfect, the marks will follow. Sam pushes back, arguing for a broader, conceptual narrative. But they are both missing the golden rule of method marks. You actually don't lose everything if your initial math is wrong, provided you demonstrate the correct cognitive domains moving forward.
And this brilliantly illustrates our assessment objectives, or AOs, which are the absolute key to the examiner's vault. Let's break them down. AO1 is your knowledge and understanding. That's simply knowing the factual reality that the expenditure variance is budgeted fixed overhead minus actual fixed overhead. Alex loves AO1. AO2 is analysis. That's your ability to extract the messy data from the source text, correctly calculate those variances, and show you're working with crystal clarity. But AO3, evaluation. This is where Sam shines, and it's where the elite, top-tier marking bands are unlocked. It is never just about finding the right number. It's about aggressively weighing the evidence, evaluating business alternatives, and making a highly justified recommendation. Successful candidates must demonstrate competence across all 3 domains. If you write an incredibly dense essay that is 90% AO1 and AO2 facts, you are physically capping your grade at a B or a C, literally no matter how flawless your calculator skills are.
Because you see, the theoretical architecture of Cambridge accounting rests on precise definitions, causal relationships, and cross-topic integration. Knowing the basic textbook definitions just isn't enough anymore. Examiners aggressively demand to see the causal relationships behind expenditure, volume, capacity, and efficiency. Imagine this scenario for a second. Let's say the expenditure variance is massively adverse because the business just bought a new, incredibly expensive, high-speed machine. Okay, that directly increases actual fixed overheads. Bad news, right? But wait, that exact same machine should theoretically cause a highly favorable efficiency variance, because standard hours produced will absolutely skyrocket compared to actual hours worked. Boom! That is exactly the cross-topic integration and causal relationship the examiner is begging you to show them. You didn't just state the math, you successfully linked an adverse expenditure directly to a favorable efficiency using a real-world business constraint. That, my friends, is exactly how you hit AO3 and clear the board.
Section 2. The procedural framework. Let's get into the mechanics.
All right, we are looking at a highly standardized 5-step sequence on the board. Deconstruct the question, extract the data, execute the analysis, verify the results, and present. Now, before we actually watch Alex and Sam try to solve the hardest part of this multi-stage problem and inevitably hit a major roadblock, I'm going to hit pause on our session for just a quick second. If you are serious about crushing your targets, you need consistent strategy. So right now, I need you to hit that subscribe button for the channel Ace the Exams IGCSE O and A levels. That's at acetheexam_IGCSE. Enable all notifications, hit that bell so you never miss a weekly Cambridge breakthrough strategy. All right, back to the digital studio. Alex and Sam are actively drafting a model response paragraph by paragraph on our smartboard, and right on step 4 and 5, they hit a massive roadblock. They're struggling with timing and paragraph linking. Alex just typed, "The business performed poorly because the volume variance is adverse by $10,000. Management needs to look into this." I'm immediately stepping in and using my digital highlighter here. I'm telling them, guys, that is pure AO1. You just described the data, but you completely failed to verify why or present a meaningful evaluation. To get unstuck, we use a specific cognitive strategy. We split the overarching variance into its subvariances to identify the root cause. We delete Alex's sentence, and we rewrite it out loud together like this. While the overall volume variance is adverse at $10,000, a deeper analysis reveals this is entirely driven by a $12,000 adverse capacity variance, perhaps due to sudden machine downtime. However, workforce efficiency was actually favorable by $2,000, indicating that when the machines were actually running, the staff performed well above standard expectations. Flawless! We just took them from a weak, mediocre answer to an undeniable, full-mark response.
And this incredibly important transition brings us to the method mark strategy, earning marks for the procedural process, professional skills, and clear notation, rather than just obsessing over the final answer. Listen to me carefully. Even if you are rushing and you accidentally calculate the capacity variance as $11,000 adverse instead of $12,000 due to a silly, panicky calculator error, but you lay out the formula perfectly, you show your extracted data clearly, and then you boldly use that slightly wrong figure to write a brilliant evaluative paragraph, you still get almost all the marks. Let that sink in. The examiner actively awards method marks for applying correct formats, using the appropriate professional terminology, and following the procedural framework. If your analytical process is structurally sound, a single arithmetic error will only cost you one single mark, not the whole 15-mark question. So the absolute rule is never leave a blank space. Ever. Always execute the framework, even if the numbers look weird to you.
Section 3. Top 3 Exam Traps. All right, I am pulling back the curtain right now to reveal exactly where thousands of students drop marks every single year, based on actual, published principal examiner reports. Look at the data on our interactive board. Here are the top 3 absolutely lethal pitfalls. Number 1, vague answers. Number 2, ignored format. Number 3, generic context. I want to do an interactive visual workshop right now. I'm putting a complex text excerpt on the screen, and I want you to imagine a 60-second visual countdown timer ticking down right beside it. Your job is to spot the flaws. If you look at a question and just lazily write, "Profits fell because variances are adverse," you just stepped right into trap number 1, vague. If you just excitedly scribble your calculations in the margins without drawing a proper clean table, you just hit trap number 2. You have to understand the examiners are completely ruthless about presentation. You must label your variances clearly as adverse or favorable. Do not just use a tiny minus sign and arrogantly assume the examiner knows what it means. State it explicitly. Now, let's look really closely at trap number 3, because this is where the A-stars are lost. Let's explicitly contrast a generic answer with an elite, context-driven response on our split-screen layout here. Spot the flaws in this poorly written student answer on the left. The fixed overhead expenditure variance is adverse. This is bad. Management should control costs better. Time's up? Let's dissect this. First flaw, it is painfully generic. Saying this is bad is a completely empty, wasted statement that scores 0. Second flaw, it totally fails to link to the specific context. If the source material clearly stated the company was facing a sudden unexpected increase in factory rent, this student completely ignored the given scenario. And the third flaw, it offers an incredibly generic, useless recommendation to just control costs better. Now look at the right side. The examiner's expectation is a deeply contextualized answer. Here's the correct, elite path. The fixed overhead expenditure variance is adverse, primarily driven by the exogenous $5,000 increase in factory rent outlined in the scenario. While management cannot easily control external rent hikes in the short term, they should investigate long-term lease negotiations. Do you see the massive difference there? You must command the context of the question, every single time.
To ensure you absolutely never freeze up during the actual exam when the pressure is on, I am giving you this strategic memory hack. You need to create an acronym for the factors affecting standard costing variances. For fixed overheads, we are always dealing with expenditure, volume, capacity, and efficiency. So let's use the acronym EVCE. Every variance can explain. EVCE. The second you sit down, write that in the margin. It instantly gives you a foolproof mental checklist to make sure you have structurally broken down the overheads before you even start writing your essay. If you are ever staring at a 15-mark question, completely stuck and panicked, just write EVCE. Calculate them step by step, interlink them conceptually, and explain them. By doing that, you instantly have a highly professional 4-paragraph structure that perfectly balances technical math with deep conceptual evaluation. It is your ultimate safety net.
Section 4. Master the evaluation, the final hurdle. I want you to use this specific analytical framework to violently elevate your answer. Look at the 3 columns on the board. The descriptive level just passively states what happened. For instance, capacity variance was adverse. Yawn. The analytical level steps it up and explains how it happened. Capacity was adverse because machine breakdown significantly reduced available standard hours. Much better. But the evaluative level? This is where we weigh the alternatives and dominate the exam. Listen to this. Although the adverse capacity variance suggests poor maintenance, the resulting favorable efficiency variance implies that the core workforce remains highly productive. Therefore, management should not penalize the workers, but rather redirect capital towards strategic machine upgrades. Boom! You just synthesized the messy data, evaluated the realistic alternatives, and made a highly justified recommendation. In our digital studio, this is the exact moment Alex and Sam have their breakthrough. Alex finally realizes that math is just the foundation, not the whole house. And Sam realizes that rigid structure is actually the perfect vehicle for their creative arguments. That right there is exactly how you elevate an answer from simply describing the data to completely owning the highest marking bands.
To critically evaluate evidence and effectively check for reasonableness, you absolutely must hit these exact elements outlined here. Identify limitations in the data, note any assumptions made by management, deeply consider alternative interpretations, and critically assess the effects on your final conclusions. Let's fully synthesize this entire masterclass down into 3 core, highly memorable pillars. Pillar number 1, the 3-step question scan. You must meticulously deconstruct the command word, extract the specific scenario data, and identify the required AO levels before your finger even touches the calculator. Pillar number 2, the paragraph balance formula. You are now linking the raw calculation directly to the business reality using the EVCE framework, absolutely ensuring you never write a weak generic point again. And pillar number 3, the last 5 minutes review checklist. You verify your table format, ensure your adverse and favorable labels are explicitly written out, and check that your final recommendation actually answers the specific, hidden constraints of the prompt.
As we officially bring this masterclass explainer to a close, I am leaving you with this final, highly provocative thought on the screen. How will you completely change your study approach for your very next past paper? Are you going to keep blindly, exhaustingly memorizing formulas, hoping for the best, or are you finally going to step up and start thinking like an elite examiner? Let me be clear. Crushing these Cambridge exams does not happen by accident. It requires clinical, consistent strategy. You now possess the absolute insider's playbook. Now you have to aggressively apply it. I want you to hit that subscribe button for Ace the Exam's IGCSE O and A levels at AceTheExam_IGCSE right now. Turn on that notification bell so you are the first to get these crucial exam hacks. And most importantly, I want you to go down to the comments and explicitly type out your exact target grade. Declare it right now, do the absolute work for it, and then go conquer it. We'll see you in the next explainer. Keep analyzing, keep evaluating, and let's go completely ace these exams.